Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Dataloft Content Marketing webinar, where today we are going to be talking to some of the UK's most leading estate agents and letting agents and how they use the power of content marketing, and in particular, how they use property data to get them the landlords and the vendors they so richly deserve. And today, I'm joined by Rory from Dataloft, Brendan, who's an estate agent, Luke is also an estate agent, the wonderful Michelle from Lancaster, who's also an estate agent, and Ian White, who is estate agent's best looking estate agency guru. Okay, so let's go to Luke first. Luke, you are in Leicester. How are you finding the market at the moment?
The market is still really strong, really busy. Lots of vendors are still wanting to put their home on the market. There is an education process, I think, there now because of the stamp duty, them wanting to beat the stamp duty deadline. We know how long it takes on average to get a sale through. We know how long it takes to get a sale agreed. Rightmove only announced the other day that it was 50 days to get a sale agreed. Now, if you add that into how long it takes to get through exchange and completion, you're cutting it a little bit fine. And we've also got the big C in the middle as well. So we've got Christmas coming up, and traditionally it does slow down a little bit. How that's going to fare with lockdown 2.0, we don't know, but you just have to deal the cards or play the cards that you've been dealt with.
Okay, let's go to Brendan. Brendan, whereabouts are you in the country and how are you finding the market? And particularly with regard to the stamp duty offer and what's happening there with regard to vendors' expectations of time and also price.
Sure. We're in Witney in Oxfordshire, and we're still seeing a very buoyant market. We've been one of the areas that have seen an influx of buyers from London and the home counties looking to move slightly further afield as they realise they no longer need to necessarily be in central London or to travel into central London on a daily basis. So we've benefited from that exodus, if you like, from London itself. But I'd agree with Luke. You know, we're now in the space where it is going to be increasingly difficult to get those sales across the line. And actually one of the most recent infographics from Dataloft Inform has been quite helpful in having those conversations. You know, we've got the information that says statistically, you know, only 50% of sales agreed in December will complete by the 31st of March in any normal year. And this year is by no means a normal year, as we all know. And actually we know that the conveyancers and the brokers, the mortgage valuers are all absolutely flat out and are experiencing delays. And so if anything, you know, we're really cutting it very tightly now. Luke was spot on with that.
Okay, let's go to Michelle in Lancaster. Thanks for joining us, Michelle. How are you finding vendors' expectations on price and their realisticness compared to the fact that they've got to get it through by the 31st of March?
It's a conversation we have to have now pretty much on all appointments. I've been explaining to mine that the window of time is now shrinking. Solicitors haven't yet advised that it's not possible, but certainly I'm saying to my clients that we really have a matter of 3-4 weeks to secure a sale, and then hopeful get it through dependent upon the chain.
Okay, so put your hands up, either Brendan, Luke or Michelle. Anyone having any issues with estate agents overvaluing properties to try and get the listing? Let's go, okay, we'll go Michelle first, then we'll go Brendan afterwards and Luke third. Go Michelle, please.
There's certainly, I'm seeing a lot of that on the market and a lot of reductions in my area by estate agents. Luckily, by using data, whether it's stuff from Dataloft or even home search with square footage prices, and I'm saying to people now that they don't have that window of time to try the market, so to speak. Most vendors will listen, but I am seeing a lot of properties which I say to John, is it me or is that ridiculous?
Okay. I'm sure it's ridiculous. You're a spot on agent. Let's go to Brendan in Witney.
Yeah, interesting. So the agent with the most stock in our area, we sadly had a fall through the other day, not our fault, but the vendor decided they wanted to put it on with this other agent. And I quickly looked at numbers and myself, because although they have the largest number of stock, when I looked at what they've sold in the last 2 months, they've sold 17% of their stock. We've sold 45% of our stock in the last 2 months. So when you look at, you know, if you're a betting man, what are the odds? And actually you can see there's a significant difference. And the reason being is that same agent, funnily enough, has the greatest ratio of price reduction. So there is some pretty hard evidence there to talk to vendors and say, let's look at the bigger picture here and see what's going on.
Okay, I mean, it's the estate agent's responsibility to get that story across. And I think a lot of us are not very good at that. Let's go to Luke Sinclair, who I consider is one of the leading estate agents in the UK. Luke, how are you getting it? Are you going up against overvaluing?
Absolutely. I mean, it happens in a normal market, and this obviously isn't a normal market, but we're finding that, again, you've got to be a good storyteller, and that's not to tell fibs, but you've got to tell the story to potential clients, but you've also got to use the data and the evidence that's out there and to actually explain it to the client. So when they're making comparisons, so typical example would be 3 comparisons of properties, one just like theirs, one that's a little bit smaller, not as good as theirs, one that's a bit bigger than theirs or nicer, and get them to actually see and understand how vendors value properties, how buyers value properties, as well, because they're all completely different, and what sources of data those kind of people use in order to establish the value. And it's not a battle you've got to have with clients, it's coming to an agreement with them on what the best strategy is.
Okay, I'd like to go to Ian White now, who basically mentors and coaches and guides some of the biggest estate agents in the UK. So a lot of people listen to him. Ian, what are your clients saying about the current market in terms of listings, overvaluing, that sort of thing?
I don't think the current circumstances have changed overvaluing. I think overvaluing has always been here and probably always will be here, sadly. I think the important point, if you just pick up on 2 things that I both heard with Brendan and Luke, is that if you're going to present your price, then if you present it with evidence and data, it's a far more powerful conversation than if you just give someone an opinion. And you'll typically find that the overvaluers won't give evidence and data because they can't, because they're using price as a vehicle to win the instruction. And I suppose I would say to any estate agent, don't be frightened of winning it second anyway, because most people sell it second time round. But if you use the, I think it's called Dataloft Inform, if you use that data, you can show people the disastrous effects upon their chances of getting a premium price of taking an overvalued strategy. Sellers do not knowingly want to overvalue their property. They just need to be convinced that the other guy's opinion is an overvaluation.
It's interesting that Rightmove threw a stat out a couple of years ago that 6 in 10 houses sell with a second agent. And interestingly, a few people pulled my leg saying, no, that's a load of rubbish that is. But actually, I had Heather from Spectre, who's a fellow ICG member, on the Watkins Sofa on Monday. And her data is exceptional when it comes to tracking properties. And she said that the number is almost spot on. Her last set of figures was in the early 50%. The early, over 1 in 2 houses sell with the second agent. So if you've got anything you can use to get you those listings, I think a lot of agents' pride gets in the way. Well, why the hell didn't they ask me first? Well, are we in this game for listing? Are we in this game for exchanging and earning some money? And I think most of it is the second one. I think what I'd like to do is move on to the second video where we talk about we share insights about what home movers are looking for, how people can turn to experts when the market toughens, because 2021 is going to be a tough one, and why agents need to almost over communicate with their local market. And we'll talk about that. And then in the third video, we'll come back and bring these wonderful people. We'll bring back Brendan, Luke and Michelle, where they'll talk about the use of local property data to differentiate themselves in their marketing and their marketing methods, to get the vendors and the landlords that they deserve. So we'll see you on the second video, and then we'll see you on the third video. So thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see you in a second.